This is my obligatory How Do I Start Being Heathen /Asatru /Norse Pagan video. I keep seeing the question come up, so here it goes. Firstly, keep in mind there is never truly a wrong or right way to be heathen. There is only what is right for you. I've been Norse pagan since 2006, and around the pagan community much longer. There are as many terms for types of pagan as there are people. Everyone needs something in their lives for their own reasons. You may not understand or agree with it, but as long as they aren't hurting anyone, including themselves, then it doesn't matter what you don't understand. It's important not to be rigid. There's no necessary first step in paganism. Some groups may require initiation, but it's not necessary. You've already made the first step on your new path simply by wanting to know more. Pagan, in the colloquial sense, is simply a non-Christian polytheist worldview. With that being said, even polytheist has many subsets: hard, soft, archetypal, even atheist or non-theist. None are right or wrong. They're simply guesses, and hopefully educated ones. Nothing requires you to agree. Remember, all pagans are valid. Our logic, perception, and schema may vary, but, like I said, their path isn't yours, and you don't know what they need on that path. That being said, valid does not always mean sound. We can benefit from studying the fallacies. It's okay to be wrong. We need to admit to ourselves when our views and opinions aren't sound. The difference being that a valid argument can have a false premise. Remember, that which does not grow rots, and there's always room for growth. You have many options in paganism, and even in heathenry itself. It depends on what you want to get out of it. Are gods and ancestors more important to you? Do you feel compelled to honor them and give worth? Or maybe nature is your central focus, the importance of the natural world over the man-made. It could also be self-improvement that guides you. Maybe your strength is in your willpower, and you wish to cultivate that raw force inside you. Of course, this too is on a spectrum, and we all have these qualities to some degree. Never be afraid to ask why. Why do I believe this? Why do I practice in this way? What is the purpose? I have a 3-step rule I use to examine my own beliefs, and it's been pretty sound so far. 1. History. What is the historical evidence and basis for this? Sometimes there isn't much. It can be like trying to piece together a sunken ship. 2. How is it practiced today? What do other heathens and the greater pagan community at large do and think about this? It's always good to find contemporary sources and ideas. And 3rd, the most important is why. Why do we believe or practice in this way? What benefit does it have? What is the practical application of this ritual? Why do I believe what I believe? Can I explain it to others? If not, more research is required. And there's always room to improve and get better. At the end of the day, what really matters is what you do. We are our deeds. We are the sum of our actions. Orthopraxy, action, and practice say more about your quality of character than any belief. One of the major differences between pagans and the Abrahamic religions is I don't care what you believe. Let the monotheists worry about what you believe and how pious you are. Orthodoxy is stiff and requires thought policing and right and correct belief. It's counterintuitive to why we become pagan in the first place. It's called a path for a reason. It's a journey. It's got perils and tests, and ultimately, you are the center of that journey. It can be academic, physical, and very frustrating, and the reward isn't always visible. But remember, Odin wasn't born the wizened, one-eyed Senex we all know him to be. It took sacrifice, mistakes, trials, even war. Nothing worthwhile is easy. No meat for the lazy wolf. A few sources I usually recommend. The lore is a good start. I read Children of Odin by Pedro Collum before the Eddas. He's a children's book author, so it's far more palatable. Neil Gaiman's Norse Mythology is another good intro. If you listen to the audiobook, he actually narrates himself. I'll put links for both in the description. Interestingly, a good intro to the lore for my wife was the New Zealand series The Almighty Johnsons. Keep in mind, all sources have their own artistic license. The Eddas are available on LibriVox for free, but the narrator's voice is the audio equivalent of drying paint. I made it through both prose and poetic Eddas, but familiarity with the lore was integral. The YouTube channels I typically recommend are pretty encompassing across the spectrum that is heathenry. Jackson Crawford is a good academic source. He has a PhD in Old Norse and also teaches Icelandic. He also lacks the bias of a lot of religious channels, so he's an excellent source. He has many translations available as well if you're more inclined to read. Mathias Nordvig, another academic who actually works with Crawford, he specializes in Norse culture and religion. Eric Wordweaver Sjerven, he's a Gothi out of East Texas. He's got a very even-keeled perspective and takes a very grassroots approach. I really appreciate his ideas. Midgard Musings, he is a Vitki and similar in his theology to Eric Wordweaver. Very balanced view between Reconstructionism, which is purely historically based, and the more UPG-heavy viewpoints of the commonly referred to fluffy bunnies. Arith Harger. Arith is a good blend of academic background and religious interpretation. He considers himself Asatru and works in the field of archaeology. The Asatruman show. He's actually relatively new to the Northern Path, so you can get the perspective of a beginner. Also, how clever is that name? Freyia Norling. She's a Volva, a Norse witch, living in Arctic Norway. If you're more magically inclined and more intuitive, she's a good source. The only other book I occasionally recommend is Essential Asatru. It's made by Diana Paxson of The Troth. It's a good toe dip into the wading pool of newbie heathenry. Of course, links to all these will be in the description below. And keep in mind, nothing is truly obligatory in heathenry. All these people are one perspective of a wide-growing tapestry. Forge your own way. We often seek paganism as an alternative to dogma, but we feel compelled to follow a certain formula. In heathenry, there is no formula. There is simply what works for you. Be better tomorrow than you were yesterday. We are the sum of our actions.
Skull!